17, 2025. Roll call.
Chairman Rod Green. Rod Green.
Brad Green.
Tim Hardy.
Here.
Chair Dan Dodge. Roll call.
We can roll call.
I'm not the chair.
Chairman or board member, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes,
Thank
yes.
Here.
Interim City Manager Christina Murray.
Here.
Planning and Zoning Developer Mark Correct.
Here.
And Madam Chair
Here.
Marty Glover.
Here. Okay, the approval of the, planning and zoning, March planning and zoning meeting. I don't have a copy of the minutes.
I'd like to speak on behalf of the minutes. We will have all the minutes updated next meeting. We have, the board just granted us permission to order transcription, and we are working to get that uploaded and all the minutes up to date.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you, so,
You're very
and,
welcome.
we will approve those minutes at that time. Okay, we will now move on to old items. 195 Chestnut Street, variance from section 3.19.2 of the Land Development Code. The applicant Cheryl Nelson requests a variance from section 3.19.2H of the LDC to reduce the side setback for an accessory structure from the larger 10 feet or 10% of the lot width to 5.71 feet from a property line.
Would you like me to proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, just for review, we've talked about this when we've done, board training, but this is a quasi judicial hearing. So that means that you will be, applying, the criteria set forth in the Land Development Code to make a decision. Because this is a quasi judicial, public hearing, you should, if you've had any contact from anyone, either in favor or opposed outside this meeting, you should disclose that contact and the nature of that discussion, because you're supposed to be making your decision based on what happens here at the hearing. This hearing is the record of the decision that you make. So, you know, as I said, if any of you have had contact outside this meeting, you guys should take this opportunity before I get started to let us know about it. Okay, so assume that no one has. So I'm gonna go ahead and talk about the variance. There's a staff report that I prepared, which should be in front of you. And in your packet, I've also handed out an additional aerial view of the property. This is an aerial view from looking at it from the east side, from the water view, and just thought it was easier to understand and see the slide, because there's an aerial view in the staff report that is directly overhead. And so a lot of that view, because there's some tree canopy there, obscures the property. So that view is provided. There's also one at the podium for any members of the public that want to see it. So the applicant, as indicated, is requesting a variance to allow the construction of carport over an existing driveway slab. This is an area on the property where the applicant currently parks RV vehicle and has requested this variance to allow a carport to be placed over it. The actual variance is being requested as a reduction in the side setback from 16 feet to 5.71 feet, which is the location of the slab. Why 16 feet? The property is zoned R1A. R1A has a 10-foot setback or 10% of the lot because of the width of this lot. Being 160 feet, the required setback is 16 feet. So the reduction is from 16 to 5.71. You also notice you looked at the application. There's additional variance request by the applicant for the size of the requested carport. We'll talk about that more later. I'm not recommending in favor of the increase in the size. I'm only recommending in favor of the setback reduction, and we'll talk about that. So what we have here on this property, which is 0.34 acres in size, which is 14,810 square feet. And it has an existing 2,500 square foot single family home on it that was built in the late 70s. The applicant purchased this home relatively recently in 2022. The driveway was in place at the time the property was purchased. So in Landmark Code, there are 6 criteria that are set forth. And I'm going to go through each of these criteria, and you will have my opinion is that how these are addressed. You guys obviously are decision makers. You'll hear from staff, you'll hear from the applicant, you'll hear from members of the public, and you make a decision based on these criteria. And so I'll go through those right now. First criteria, the granting of the proposed variance is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan. So erecting the carport over the existing slab, the slab already is in place, it's already 5.71 feet. This doesn't rise to the level of disrupting or changing the residential character of the property. So that would have to be the kind of thing for an issue related to a setback where it would be a conflict of the comprehensive plan. If you require, the comp plan deals with very broad policy decisions. So it's not typically concerned about a small detail such as a setback for variance, but it is concerned about the character of various neighborhoods. So for this to be in conflict with the comprehensive plan, it'd have to rise to the level of seriously disrupting the character of the neighborhood for that criteria to be an issue. Next criteria, the granting of the proposed variance will not result in creating or continuing use which is not compatible with the adjacent uses in the area. So this is a carport. Carports are accessories to residential type uses. The setback, the carport, because it's more than 350 square feet, it will be required to be compatible with the existing home. It will have to basically, the architecture of this carport will have to rhyme with that existing home. There's existing vegetation that screens this property from the adjoining neighbor. There's a really substantial hedge that's there between this and the neighbor. And so I don't believe that this setback variance is going to introduce something that will be seriously incompatible disturb the adjacent uses in the area. 3, the granting of the proposed variance is the minimum action not available, is the minimum action available to permit reasonable use of the property. So, reducing the setback from 16 feet to 5.7 is the minimum action required to accommodate the carport and the existing driveway. If you've seen the property, there's some fairly substantial vegetation. I've already talked about hedge, but there is also a large flower bed, large tree between the the area where they want to put the carport in the house. So this is the reasonable, this is a reasonable accommodation, and I think it does meet the criteria for being a minimum accommodation. But this is one of the reasons why I'm not recommending approval of the size variance. The landowner code allows accessory structures to be built to 600 square feet. That is fairly substantial. When you're looking at a variance, you're looking at the property itself, you're looking at the configuration of property, you're looking at the circumstances associated with the land. And there's nothing peculiar about this particular piece of property that would indicate that they need to have a larger size structure than is currently allowed in the code. And that's something that's been fairly consistently enforced with other properties. Next criteria, number 4, the physical characteristics of the site are unique and not present on adjacent properties. The property does exhibit this pre-existing flag, this pre-existing driveway. And this limits the placement options for the carport. I've already talked about the vegetation, both that separates the property and the trees on it. So I think that these site characteristics do create conditions that are not present generally throughout the property. And again, there's nothing about the physical characteristics of the property that would support that size of the variance. Number 5, circumstances creating the need for the variance are not the result of the action of the applicant. The applicant did not create or place the slab there. This was done several years before purchase of the property. And 6, the granting of the proposed variance will not cause substantial detriment to public welfare or impair the purposes and intent of the LDC. This again doesn't rise to the level of being a substantial detriment to the public welfare. The purpose of the land development code are for sets forth the rules and criteria for reasonable development of property. There is this variance mechanism within the land development code in order to address hardships, and I don't think bringing this hardship would be substantial detriment to the public. And so our recommendation is to grant the size variance, and we do recommend 3 conditions which are in the staff report. So all the other criteria set forth for accessory use requirements must be met. This includes criteria that limits the carport to 600 square feet in size and also limits the number of accessory structures on the property. 2, that the existing hedge remain in place and be maintained by the property owner so that it fully screens the carport area from the neighboring property to the north, and that the color and roof line of the carport will complement those of the primary residence on the property. I'll be happy to answer any questions about the information I presented. When I'm done, you should give the applicant an opportunity to speak, and then, of course, hear from any members of the public who wish to talk about it.
Okay. Do any members of the board have any comments at this time?
Well, this is just a clarifying question. So the hedge that you're talking about, is that hedge that looks like it's in the, is that in the middle of the slab, or how does it?
There is one in the middle slab, but immediately to the north, there's, you can see, on here, it just looks like tree canopy, but these are, it's actually a fairly substantial hedge. And it looks like it's immediately adjacent to the, so if you're looking at this picture that I presented to you, that hedge is here.
Okay,
And it's, this aerial's probably about the time, this is probably 2021 or 22. The hedge, if you go out there today, it's fairly substantial. It's a very healthy hedge.
so that separates the two properties.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Is whose property is the trunk of the hedge on? I mean, is it planted on the applicant's property?
It does appear, I mean, it may straddle, but it does appear to be, right on that line. And we can ask the applicant, if they acknowledge, but it does appear to be right at the line.
My other question is that, we have the sketch and then we have the aerial. There's a pool on site. They don't appear on either of these, it doesn't appear on either of these documents. And I'm wondering what the relationship is of the pool to the slab, the carport, the house, etc. There's, let's see. Okay. The illustration appears to show the storage building, but I don't see it on the aerial. Do we know what year this aerial is from?
Like I said, I think this aerial is probably from late 2021, maybe early 2022.
And the applicant purchased the property in 22.
In 22.
So I guess the question is, the storage building, was it installed by the applicant or was it there prior?
We'll have to ask.
Again, okay, I'm just bringing up questions.
Yeah.
When we talked about the carport itself, there was this photo was provided for a reference. And just for reference, does this illustrate how it's going to be constructed?
Well, there is criteria in the land development code that basically says if you're over 350 square feet, you have to architecturally match the home. And so I would not indicate to you that does. So it's one of the reasons why there's that condition that I'm suggesting that you put in place.
So I believe the home is a frame home, so I assume that the structure would have to be framed.
Well, it doesn't have to be framed, but it certainly, it should have a roof that Ryan, it should be color matching. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't see open, basically you see a lot of open, like, looks like aluminum,
Yeah, what's about this, of course, looks like aluminum too,
Yeah, the aluminum tubing,
and that's
so,
why,
you know, again, you guys are free to impose reasonable conditions, the variance, so I'm not suggesting it has to be framed, but certainly that is something that, you know, you guys could talk about whether you felt like that's reasonable.
thank you.
So at this time, if none of the board have any more questions, we will open it up for public comments.
Applicant first? The applicant is
Okay, the applicant, if you would like to come forward. State your name and your address for us, please,
It's Melissa
and if you're speaking to the mic.
Frank, 195 Chestnut Street, Crescent City.
You can, explain briefly to us, your plan.
What we'd like to do is just build a, carport on the existing slab that we have. Like he said, there's a substantial hedge between us and the neighbor. And I spoke with the neighbor and she said that she didn't have a problem. I think there's some letters from some of the neighbors and that she didn't have a problem at all, with us constructing the carport. And it actually won't look like that. It will look, the house is an old ranch style wood frame house. And so it's gonna look, it'll be wood. The carport, it'll have an aluminum roof that matches, but it'll look more of something like a pole barn style, sorta.
Okay.
So it won't be, all, metal, because we'd like for it to go with the flow of the house too,
Okay,
so.
any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Was your neighbor ever shown a picture of what you plan to?
Well, that's not what we intend, that was just a reference of just showing, we wanted to build an open carport.
Was she ever shown a picture that you just showed us?
Yes,
And she's in agreement with that?
yes,
Okay. And then my other question is, on the second page of the agenda, it's a letter from Cheryl Nelson, and it addressed to who it may concern. And it says, I would like to find out if it would be possible to have a carport installed on the existing concrete slab at 195 Chestnut Street. The carport will be constructed by Terry Jackson Carports and Concrete, the affixed building. What is your carport going to be affixed to?
what is it, excuse me?
It says that the affixed building. So what is your carport going to be affixed to?
Not to the concrete, it's just it'll be just a freestanding carport,
So it's not affixed to any other building?
no,
Okay. And you state that you want to build a 26 by 35 foot carport because that's the size of your slab,
yes,
okay? And essentially 26 feet by 35 feet equals 910 square feet.
yes,
Were you aware of that?
yes,
And were you aware of the land development code stating that carports cannot be any larger than 600 square feet?
well, there are a lot of carports around here, big steel buildings
No.
that,
We're not talking about what was done before. We're talking
well,
about-
these are fairly new.
And that has no bearing on this case. It's what you're going to do has all bearing on this case.
Okay, well, we're trying to build a carport that we can park our RV and we have a small boat under.
Okay.
And that, it won't ever hang the concrete, it'll it'll stay within the confines of the concrete slab.
Okay, regards to the concrete slab, does the concrete slab have footers?
Yes.
It does,
Does it have footers?
footers.
I'm pretty sure it does. If not, if it's approved, whoever comes, we're gonna have an engineer come
Okay,
and, address whatever needs to be done to build the carport.
because most people, when they pour a slab like that, it doesn't have any footers.
I didn't pour the slab, it may not,
I'm just saying,
so,
most people.
yeah.
And I checked with Don Beckham up at the county, and he says that anybody now and in the future that has a slab poured like that, they recommend that it have footers. And the reason being is, no sooner do you get your slab poured and you get a carport up, and then somebody wants to enclose the whole area, and you can't do that without footers.
Okay, well, that's not our intention to enclose it ever. We just wanted a cover. And,
Okay.
so, I mean, we'll have an engineer, if this is approved, we'll be happy to have an engineer come out and do whatever needs to be done to get the carport. And I can have a report, an engineer's report provided.
That obviously is the next phase. Obviously, if you guys deny the variance, there's no point in going through the process of, having those, plans drawn and figuring all that
And
stuff
then,
out.
and then my last question concerning this letter, did you ever get a response from this letter?
Say that again?
Did you ever get a response from your letter?
A response from our
Because
letter.
you're asking, I would like to find out, so that,
This was that letter was to the city.
did you ever get a letter, a response from the letter?
Well, I did because we came in and, that's how this got put in motion.
Yeah, she was asking,
Yeah, I was asking what I needed to do to get a carport.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she was trying to find what she could do. Yes,
May I?
and yes,
It's not clear because the letter isn't addressed to anyone but you, and it's signed by you. So it doesn't say that it was addressed to
Well,
the
it's
city.
addressed to whom it may concern, meaning,
I know, but often it's addressed to an organization and then to whom it may concern.
okay,
You see my point?
okay.
You obviously sent this to the city, and I'm just, my suggestion in the future, if you're sending it to the city, an organization, you put that organization.
Okay, I will do that.
And again, then if you don't know a name, it's often commonly to whom it may concern. Did you want to continue?
No.
Okay, so, so there's a pool on the property now,
Yes,
and did you install it? Have it
yes,
installed?
yes.
And unfortunately, it's not shown on any of these. But this one I can't quite make out, because it's such.
It's just an above-ground pool.
I know, but I don't know what the relationship is to the slab, to the house, by these documents.
Well, the pool's kind of like in the backyard, and the slab is on the end of the house.
Can you point on the paper for Dan so he has an idea, roughly where the.
Can you just draw where it is?
I can do that. Okay, so let me get my bearings.
So usually,
Yeah. So the pool's like right in here.
okay, thank you. So it's some distance from the slab
Oh, yeah.
and the driveway.
Yes.
And was the storage building there when you purchased the home?
No, it's portable and it's going to be moved. We sold a farm and we had to have a place to put all of our stuff. And we're gonna go through it, and then I have a company that'll come move the building. So it's not staying. We just had so much stuff that we didn't expect we were gonna sell our place that quick.
Yeah.
And,
We're making a record, so we.
yes.
So if you
Okay.
could please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, I just, didn't want you to spend a whole bunch more time there. It'd be impossible for whoever working on minutes later to.
okay.
So, to repeat what you told me, you placed the storage structure there, the shed,
Yes, temporary,
and, temporarily,
yes,
and you're using it for storage, but your plan is to move it off property
yes,
at a later date.
yes. We just need to go through everything and, get it emptied out, because like I say, we had several, like barns or buildings at our previous address, and we had lots of stuff in them, and so when we sold it, we just put the building there and put things in it till we could get it all sorted out.
Is there any other structures, small or, that you've added to the property since you?
No,
There's not a deck or anything, is there? A deck?
no,
Not a deck?
no.
Thank you. Getting back to, the structure itself. I assume from the driveway that this is a garage.
Yes, there is it's attached to the house. It was built as part of the home. It's a two-car garage.
It's a two-car garage.
Yes.
Okay, single door, double door?
Done.
Double? Thank you. The home, now, what's the roof material?
It's metal.
It's a metal roof?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Since Dan was talking about the pool, I'd like to expand a little bit on the pool issue. And are you aware that you need a building permit to erect an above-ground pool?
It is permitted.
I called the county.
I know you did. And if you would do your homework, it's permitted.
Well, I called them and they said there was no room.
Yes.
I don't think the pool is what is in question on tonight.
Well, I just want to expand a little bit on since Dan was talking about the pool, but that's not to come into play.
It's been filed, and there's a permit.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so what was that?
Huh?
What was that? What were you just, for the record, what document did you just present?
The final permit for the pool.
So it was permit for the above ground?
Yes,
Okay, just,
Okay,
Have a copy of that for the record?
yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask one more question in regard to the pool. Are you aware that above-ground pools are considered an accessory structure?
Yes. So if we move the portable building, then we only have two. If we get the garage and the pool, and I think we're allowed two accessory structures.
Okay. Are you also aware that boat docks that are covered in boathouses are considered as?
That dock was already out there.
Well, I know it's out there, but it's considered an accessory structure.
Well,
So between the pool and your boat dock and boathouse, you have two accessory structures.
okay, well, I'm not gonna tear my pool down, and I'm not gonna tear the boat dock down, so.
But the criteria states that you can only have two accessory structures, so now you're stating that you're asking for a third, which would include this carport,
Yes,
so you're asking for a third.
yes.
Okay.
So it was simply a clarification. It was, at this point, not asking you to tear anything down. And now that you've heard, the member did do their homework. So your statement probably was inappropriate, but was not given the complete facts which you provided. Understood?
Okay,
A better way might have stated it a better way.
What's that?
You stated to the member that you didn't do your homework.
About the pool permit?
Right.
Yeah, that's all I
He didn't
was
do his
saying.
homework, he was given the wrong information. So I wouldn't have made that comment. I
Okay,
would have simply brought forward, but I do have a permit.
okay,
You see my point?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, question, okay, I would like for us to get back to why we were here, and that is for the variance of the carport. Now, let's get back focused on that, okay? At this time, thank you, do you have anything else you would like to share with us?
I don't, I mean, like I say, we're just trying to get a carport to cover our, you know, our building, I mean, our, RV and our little boat, that's all we're asking for. And I mean, like I say, it'll be, you know, it'll go with the flow of the house, and it's not gonna be some, you know, something crazy looking, so,
Okay, all right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we will open up for, public comments.
Yeah, good one, this thing. If I can have this clerk, please. Plenty of copies, you're gonna distribute one to each member, if you would, please. Good evening, my name is Danny Miller. While the clerk's passing out on materials, I'd like to take a minute and address a matter of.
Excuse me, can you state your address as well?
Oh, I'm sorry, certainly. 1400 Sunset Drive, Winter Park, Florida. By just passing those out, I'd like to address a matter of some personal importance to me. As some of you may know, I'm a Crescent City native. And as such, I've been acquainted with the applicants for many years. I've also worked in my office when she was in high school, and I've known Cheryl since we were small children. As I reflected, I realized I've been acquainted to varying degrees with 4 generations of both their families. I've got a great deal of respect for them and I hold their extended families in high regard. The reason for saying this is I just feel compelled to state that I'm somewhat saddened to find myself in opposition to these fine folks, and I'll offer my comments tonight with all due respect. Also want to thank this board, if I may, for deferring consideration of this matter from last month to allow me the opportunity to personally appear before you and offer my comments for your consideration. So on to the agenda of the matter. I'm the owner of multiple parcels adjacent to that of the applicant, and I believe these parcels would be significantly and adversely affected by the granting of this variance. Now, the applicant submitted a lengthy application packet letter with attachments. And in their letter dated February 12th, they spoke at great length to the subdivision covenants and restrictions and questioned their enforceabilities. We may disagree on that point, and ultimately it may fall to the courts to resolve that disagreement. But as we all know, the requirements of the covenants and restrictions are not the issue before this body tonight. That issue is there, of course, is their request for approval of the variance to the Crescent City Land Development Code. Specifically, a significant, I think, 64% reduction in side setback. And of course, the Land Development Code very explicitly trumps any covenants and restrictions where the Land Development Code requirements exceed that of the covenants and restrictions. So again, it's not about covenants and restrictions. Now, in addition to the cover letter, the applicant's packet contains the lengthy staff report, and they've recommended for approval of variance requests. I was frankly very surprised by that. I believe, I'm not the professional, but I believe it's fraught with error. And I'd like to share with you the specifics of why I believe that staff recommendations perhaps fatally flawed. What the clerk has distributed includes a copy of the city variance application. I found it noteworthy that a variance application was not included in your meeting packet. If it had been included, I think by the answers to the questionnaire, that we might reasonably conclude that the application appears to fall far short of meeting the requisite criteria for approval. I'll direct your attention to page 4 of the application. And in the preamble, under criteria, I've highlighted, it states in part, quote, "The literal enforcement of the provisions will result in unnecessary and undue hardship." As I reviewed the applicant's various submission, I was left with the question, what is the hardship? As I understand it, absent the requisite establishment of hardship, there's no legal basis for granting variance requests. To me, as I read it, again, a layman, application seems instead to be based solely upon the applicant's desire to have a carport located well within the city setback requirements. The variance application criteria also requires that not only must the applicant demonstrate hardship, but also that granting of a variance must not adversely affect surrounding properties. Pardon me. Now, the applicant's counter argument to that appears to be based solely upon 3 things. One, that the neighbor to the south, quote, has no objection, unquote. Of course, as the owner of 37 surrounding parcels of property, I'm also a next door neighbor of sorts, and I strenuously object. The applicants also say, quote, that they, in the letter, I believe it was, that they have spoken to some real estate agents, and they stated that it would definitely be an asset improvement and increase the value of the home to have a covered parking area, unquote. I believe the applicant's assertion that the variance will enhance the value of their home is of no legal consequence in their application. And finally, the question of adverse effect to surrounding properties pays no heed to my letter, which is in your meeting packet. And I stated my belief that as the owner of those 37 affected properties surrounding the applicant's property, my belief that the granting of variance would adversely affect property values. I'd like to also cite what I believe to be possibly 5 additional reasons to deny the variance request. Let's see here. Also included in the information I provided was the February 2025 Crescent City Code Enforcement Monthly Report, which indicated then that the applicant had an open code violation. I understand that code violation has now been resolved, but as you noticed, or you noted, pardon me, that pool now constitutes an accessory structure on the property. There's also been talk about the shed. It's contained in the picture in my packet. That shed is a second accessory structure. I'm a little unclear as to whether it's going to be moved off the property, moved elsewhere on the property. If you look at the sketch that was provided, and I don't know if it's to scale or not, it is dimensioned, but if that shed's in excess of 200 square feet, then that would be a code violation. Finally, if you noted, It's in staff report. It states under recommendations on page 2, that quote, I quote, all the criteria set forth in the land development code, accessory use requirements must be met. This includes the criteria that limits carports to 600 square feet. Picked up on the point that it's actually 910 square feet. And I don't see where that's part of the variance application anywhere. And it limits the accessory structures, as you've noticed, to 2. Well, we've got the shed, don't know if it's gonna be moved off property, you've got the dock, you've got the pool. So the land development code, as I understand it, seems to expressly preclude the addition of yet another accessory structure. It's my belief that special conditions and circumstances do not exist. The desire to park the RV undercover, the fact that there is a slab there now, and it would be more convenient to install on the slab. I don't know if that rises to the level of hardship, a special condition. And if it doesn't, then it would appear to, in violation of the land development code, confer upon the applicant a special privilege through the granting of this. So, for all these reasons, and I won't rehash them, I respectfully request that this variance application be denied. It seems to me to be a substantial departure from both the letter and intent of the land development code. And I wonder if perhaps that the granting of this variance might open up a can of worms of sorts. And that now, if other folks governed by the land development code come before you, can they point to this variance to say, well, gee, I want mine too, I want to be treated equally? I don't know, that's a decision y'all have to make. I have nothing more to add. Thank you for your time and attention. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. I just have one question. It's more of a curiosity question, and that is the covenants and restrictions that were set forth in, what is it, 1963?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the corporation or business that those covenants and restrictions were under was voluntarily resolved in 1969. Is that right?
If I may.
Well, my question is,
I anticipated that, so go ahead, sir.
okay, well, my question is, are the covenants and restrictions still valid?
That seems to,
That's a matter of some dispute.
if I may.
But I'm quite, he's asking, so you're asking a question as whether they're still valid. You're gonna hear an opinion. So are you an attorney?
No, are you?
No, I'm not. The applicant's not an attorney either. So, you know, you're gonna hear, you've asked, are they still valid? We've heard you're gonna hear two different
That would be a
opinions.
legal decision, so the question is,
It's, the only reason why I'm interjecting here is you guys can talk about it. It is entirely irrelevant. So it should not be part of your decision-making process. So if you take into account, and Mr. Miller started with this, the covenants restrictions are completely beside the point. The applicant, I want you to know that I pointed out to the applicant that these deed restrictions, regardless of what happens, may preclude her from obtaining permit, being able to put this up. If you guys grant the variance, she still has to deal with the issue of these covenants restrictions. She may be sued by her neighbors, and the neighbors could prevail in court. So what was explained that, and for the reason why there was substantial delay, if you recall, this has been on the agenda for several times. It was explained to her that you're gonna go through this process. It's a lengthy process, it costs money, it takes time. You should go consult with an attorney and discuss the covenants, restrictions. You should do your research, because you may be entirely wasting your time. Because the variance process and these covenant restrictions occur in two separate and distinct worlds. So that it has absolutely no bearing on our analysis. So I understand you said you're asking out of curiosity. I just want to make clear to all the other decision makers, whatever your thoughts are about the covenant restrictions, for the purpose of your decision making, they don't exist.
If I might respond to your question, because I agree with everything he said in regards to the covenants and restrictions. Entirely different thing that will have to be resolved in court. What I've handed out though, I would like to speak to, in the applicant's package, they seem to imply that I lacked agency in addressing this, because the original company was voluntarily dissolved in the late 60s. What I've handed out to you is the current and successor corporate entity that owns the lots out there in the Breezy Point subdivision now. So there's been no break in ownership. This property has been owned by my family for over 60 years without break in ownership. It's very common as the laws evolve to go from one corporate structure to another. So this, what's in front of you is the successor, corporate entity.
I have a question. So now I understand why they were bringing out the pool and things of that nature. So when we made mention of the dock, is that to be taken into consideration as far as an accessory unit? Because when I look at the recommendation, and it says, limits the number of accessory structures on the property to 2.
So that is my recommendation. So if you guys grant the variance and you make that a condition, it's a code requirement. The applicant will have a choice as to which accessory structures she has in the property.
That has to be removed of state.
You grant, if the variance gets granted, she can exercise that variance if she wishes to do so. She might be involved in a lawsuit, who knows? Above ground pools can be removed. Obviously, there would be choices to make. And there's, as you pointed out, there'd be 3 structures. 3 accessory structures.
So
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so basically, whether we approve the variance or not, she still has some battles, if you will, that she would have to fight maybe to possibly get if that's what she wants to do.
I think Mr. Miller has made that clear, and certainly she was advised of that in the very beginning. That's the reason for the delay. She was told to go consult with an attorney and come back and let us know if you really want to go through with this. And so here we are.
Another question. You have comments?
Mr. Miller, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Well, Lisa DeVito, 108 South Main Street. My husband and I live across the lake from Cheryl, and I have some other questions, but I just wanted to ask a factual question. And about the land development code. Mr. Green mentioned that, a covered dock is considered an accessory structure, that it would count. Does it have to be a covered dock? The reason I'm just asking because I don't think their dock is covered. The ones to the north are covered, but that particular dock, is that,
Yes.
okay, I've been looking at that dock ever since that house was built, or the dock was built. So I just wanted to clarify, I don't believe that's a covered dock. I don't know if it makes any difference in the calculations.
I wouldn't consider it, but
So, I mean, it's not an accessory structure and it's not covered.
I mean, it's not under roof, you know,
I don't think that, just throwing that out there because I don't see a roof.
Can I have clarification, is the dog covered or not?
No, it is
No,
not.
it is not.
Thank you.
Good evening, Michael Frank. No relation. 83 Lakeshore Drive, Crescent. I'm here to speak in opposition of this variance approval. Very simply put, it's been beaten to death already. They're only allowed 2 accessory structures. They already have 3. The above-ground pool, the existing shed, and then there's a smaller shed down by the shoreline by the pier.
No, there's not. We have one shed.
There's a little, probably this big, looks like
You
a
need to
pump
speak with
house.
us,
This-
Matt, you,
and
you'll need to come up and
come
speak
up when you get there.
at an appropriate time.
yeah, when you're done, before you close the public hearing, you should give the applicant the opportunity to be the last person to speak, and then the opportunity to, rebut anything that has been said.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's 3 structures, accessory structures. The smallest structure is near the shoreline by the pier. And by my expert opinion, it appears to be a little pump house. I hate to speculate if it's pumping water from the Lake Stella for the irrigation system, that's a code violation. But there's 3 structures on that side already. The pool, the shed, and that little auxiliary structure, about 3 by 4 by 4. So that makes 3, and if you count the pier, that's 4. So there's no room. She can't have the carport much as she wants it. She has 3 recreational vehicles on the site. The big motorhome, a big pontoon boat, and then a small rowboat on the shoreline in the backyard. So we're only allowed 2. She has 3. So to that end, it's pretty simple to see that she hadn't done her homework, speaking of homework, and that I want to offer too that I was never notified, and they stated in their letter that the surrounding neighbors know of the variance. No one ever came to my house and let me know, and there's only 5 other houses out there at Greasy Point, to let me know, okay, this is what we're proposing to do. A neighbor, I think, would do that, especially a new neighbor in the neighborhood. Never happened. There was never a sign posted in the yard as to when this variance hearing was going to take place tonight. I think there's something in there that says you have to notify your neighbors and you have to post it in your yard so others could be aware. None of that took place. The other thing that disturbs me is the site plan submitted right here and in the package doesn't show the other accessory structures or the above ground pool. So to me, it's like, why wouldn't they include it? They sketched in the little shed on the very crude site plan that was in the packet. They didn't put in the other above ground pool or the smaller structure down that appeared at the shoreline. So I just question, why not? Why not let the people know exactly what you have on your property? And to that end, when I asked Mark here if he had gone by the property, he said yes, he had gone by the property. And I asked, did you do a walk around? No. He did a drive-by.
That's correct.
On something like this, I would think it'd be incumbent upon you to walk the site to see what the conditions are, and you would have seen the other accessory structures and brought that into question. That your recommendation is just so sad. It's like you didn't do your homework. The structure that they're proposing is, and by profession, I'm a retired architect, so I did a quick sketch of the elevation. Not that the thing isn't gonna get approved, but if they were to build that thing at a 312 pitch, that structure would be close to 18 feet tall. It would tower over the house. It would tower over the adjacent bushes. There is no other structure out in that whole subdivision like that in any way, shape, or form. And I would recommend for the board to go out there and go out and visit sites when they're up for variance requests, so you can see firsthand what you're up against and not have to rely on faulty photos or bad sketches in the packet. So, yes, a comment or two and I'll wrap it up. The structure, it's not compatible with the home. Metal roof, the home doesn't have a metal roof. So the structure would be over 18 feet tall, tower over the residence. It would be visible eyesore and would diminish the value of the adjacent property owners. The proposed structure lacks a unity of character or design. Lacks it, they're very lacking in it, so I don't know how you could justify it, Mark. It would detract from the character, value, and attractiveness of all of the adjacent properties. The design, scale, and location would greatly detract from the character, value, and attractiveness of the surroundings. So that's pretty much what I have to say. I am vehemently requesting you deny this variance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
May I speak?
Any other public?
Okay, as I said before, Lisa Kane DeVito, 108 South Main Street, and the backyard of my property looks out on directly across the lake, or catty corner across the lake, on the applicant's property. The applicants are wonderful neighbors. They keep their house and yard in great condition, just like people who owned it before. And I have no position on whether you should or should not grant this variance. But I do have some questions and observations, and I do have just a couple of concerns as you think about what should be done here. Mr. Frank answered one question I had, which is it became apparent to me that the structure would be tall because it would have to cover an RV, that it will be 18 feet tall. And I apologize, I was really not aware, I'm sorry, that's supposed to be on Do Not Disturb, that's my phone, I'm sorry, it'll go voicemail. There's something blinky about the city notification system. My husband and I signed up for notices of all the meetings and they're not coming out consistently. So I wasn't really aware this was on the agenda until today. I didn't have a chance to look at the packet. But my concerns are, is the RV is parked on the property now? Is the, putting it in the, carport to be constructed, the one that's where the variance is requested, is that gonna bring it closer to the lake? And the reason I ask that is because, the property slopes down to the lake. There is an issue of cut mass in terms of, Mr. Frank mentioned looming. And it's just a unique feature of lakefront property in Crescent City, especially when you're on the west side. You can see that property from the Lake Stella Park, from the boat ramp. All the people who face that property, I don't think our code really takes adequate consideration of that your neighbors are not just the ones, on the land side, your neighbors are also the ones on the lake side. So, I'm a little concerned about bringing that RV closer to the lake and, how that will look in proportion to the other structures. I thought Mr. Frank raised a good question about that. Certainly, the issue of the hedge came up. Anything that could be done to soften the appearance of another structure with landscaping would greatly help. It's not just their property, but other properties on that side of the peninsula. Some of the accessory structures, tend to, they're allowed, they tend to give it kind of a cluttered look. And I think it could look better with some landscaping to soften it. To kind of screen it. You talk about screening from the neighbor to the north, but there's a much larger community that looks directly into those yards. And screening would help with, some landscaping. Then this is just an observation that I have, about the 900 square feet and the metal roof, and it's gonna be 18 feet tall. And I know they have very good grass out there. We changed, after 2017 with Hurricane Irma, we changed from a shingle roof to a metal roof. And the water runs off of the house much faster. And so I don't know whether it will make a difference for the drainage affecting the applicant's house or how fast water runs into the lake. It might be mainly for their house. But for 900 square feet of metal roof that's 18 feet tall, I would imagine the water that's gonna land on that in a heavy storm should be taken into account, particularly, it should be taken into account by the property owner or whoever permits it or whatever. Because like I said, we've noticed a difference on our property and it's affecting our garage. We have to divert water away from the garage. So those are just my observations and thank y'all very much for your very good work and staff as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you saying that the amount of water that's going to run off the 18-foot tall roof, is that going to actually make trenches along the house and gouge out?
Brad, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, I wouldn't begin to be able to calculate any of that, I just know.
Thank you very much for your.
But, I mean, I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there because we noticed a big difference and water pooling on your property. Like I said, we're having to kind of divert water from our garage now. So
just, first of all, you're gonna make your decisions based on criteria, right?
Right.
Anything that's associated with the construction or how it's constructed or, how it might place, that all, you're making a decision about the setback. You're not making a decision based on what you think could happen. Okay, you're making your decision based on the criteria. Now, you did hear from some members of the public, they had some ideas about things like screening, so that gets to some of the criteria, the compatibility issues. So if you wanted to say that the hedge needs to be, extended or brought around the structure, if you wanted to say that the structure shouldn't be brought closer to the lake because that is a compatibility issue, yes, but getting into, what it might cause in terms of, stormwater runoff, all that is sort of, place and manner issues that are associated with the building permitting process. Okay? So that's, just want to make that clear.
Okay, nobody has any more questions for me?
No.
Okay, and I just brought, I mean, you're the professional, I don't know anything about that.
Excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
It's an interesting point, the runoff of the metal roof. And of course, this variance is to eliminate the side.
You have a
Variance.
question for me, too?
Speaking to you.
Oh, you are, okay.
You can sit if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're reducing 16 to 5 1/4. It doesn't give much room for runoff between the property and line. And as I look at the adjoining house, it's quite close. Anyways, it's just an observation I'm making. Thank you.
May I speak, please?
The applicant needs to be given the last opportunity to speak. So if you guys are done asking questions or hearing from the public, you can.
They offer additional comment.
Yes.
Please.
Yes, and
Thank you. We certainly had a spirited, Danny Miller again for the record, pardon me. There's certainly been a spirited conversation. I'd like to offer there are two overriding issues. One is that, and help me with this, the idea of limiting the number of structures on the property is so that you don't have too intensively use on a residential property. Would that be a fair statement? Because what we have here is a property that's being very, very intensively used. That's point one. Point two, as I understand it, the predicate for even consideration of a variance is that the applicant must establish hardship. So the question that lingers in my mind is, what is the hardship? I see a very strong desire to have another accessory building so that the RV can be parked there. That's a desire. There's no demonstrated hardship that I see. If in fact that is the prerequisite for consideration, it strikes me that, kind of without that, how do we move forward with granting of a variance? Correct me if I'm wrong, please. Thank you.
and do we have any more public comments at this time? So we would like, ask the applicant to come back.
Melissa Frank, 195 Chestnut Street, Crescent City. So I just want to say, our building's not going to be 18 feet tall. I don't know where he got that, but we're looking at 12 feet. I mean, we just need it tall enough to put our RV under, not 18 feet. So, and we do have a metal roof on our home. And we have an uncovered dock, and whatever storage that you're speaking of, it's a sink on the dock, and it was there when we moved there.
Just, the building is like this.
Ms. Frank,
Just rebuttal to.
To talk to us.
Okay.
you speak to us, please.
Yes.
It's
Thank
just
you.
a sink. There's a sink on the dock. It was there when we moved there. It's a little wooden structure sitting on the open dock. And it's a sink for cleaning fish.
Uh-huh.
And we do have a little, like a rowboat tipped over on that dock. I mean, it's just a small two-person boat. It's not motorized or anything. It's just a paddle boat. And so we have that, and the building, the portable building that's gonna be moved, that it won't be there. So basically, we have the dock that was there with a little thing for a sink, and, that we didn't put there. It was, there when we moved there, and, the pool. So, I mean, y'all are welcome to come, look at the area. But, I mean, we're looking at a 12-foot tall, garage. And I mean, we can put a gutter and divert the water, but it's not, I mean, our house is probably that, the roof's probably taller on our house than that. So, and the carport's away from the house. It's not like it's gonna sit up on top of the house and, I mean, we wouldn't do anything to damage our property, or put anything out there that, wouldn't, be cohesive with, the look of the house.
I have a few questions. And what, for clarification, didn't I read in the application that the carport was to be 14 feet?
We don't need it that, I think you may have, but after we looked at it.
Excuse me.
Oh,
So
I thought you were
the
talking-
application is for 14 feet, correct?
No, the application has nothing to do with the height. of
It
the
doesn't-
carport.
it doesn't-
It has to do with the setback, what you're varying is the setback. Right?
Thank you.
They're allowed,
Does the,
no, let me explain, let me.
no, you don't, let me finish.
They're allowed to go to the height of the district.
They could go, well,
And
was there anywhere in documentation that it stated 14 feet was the desired height? Do you remember, Mark?
I don't remember,
Okay,
but you could,
Well,
so let me explain.
you don't need to explain.
No, let me explain for the
The point
other
is-
minute, let me explain for the other
Two
minute.
minutes, thank you.
You guys can impose a height restriction if you think that is reasonable, right? But there are certain aspects of this application that you're not deciding on, right? So you have to assume, when you grant a variance, just like you establish zoning for a piece of property, right? And it allows certain setbacks and allows certain heights. People may build to the maximum, right? That's not restricted or controlled. And so if you want to impose a restriction or condition on the variance, you may do so.
Thank you, Mark. I did find that in the letter to whom it may concern, there was written in 14 feet tall. My point was that, and now Ms. Frank is saying, that she only needs 12, that's all. And I understand your point. Okay. Ms. Frank, so for clarification, there's only, besides the main residence now, there is the pool
Yes,
that was recently permitted and that's complete, correct?
yes, it's been final.
It's finalized?
Yes.
Okay. There is one shed
Yes, it's gonna be moved,
that's going to be moved,
yes.
and there is no other shed
No,
on the property,
no, there is not.
okay? Just for, I think that it is confusing in this documentation, that shed, you show the shed,
Yes,
it would have been helpful if it stated to be removed.
okay.
You see what I mean?
I think I put portable, maybe I didn't.
No,
Okay,
no.
well, my
Okay.
mistake, but yeah, we're moving it, it will not stay.
In your rowboat, what's the length? Approximately
Probably 12 feet,
12 feet, thank you.
10 to 12 feet maybe.
And then the other statement that was brought up was that the property was not posted for this meeting.
Yes, it was posted. The sign just recently, because the sign's been out there since last November. And so during like a bad windstorm we had, it went back and forth and it broke the legs off and it had the date for last year anyway. And so I stuck it up on my mailbox until probably a week ago. I posted it up on my mailbox but the date was incorrect, and the reason you weren't notified is because you're not in the 300 feet. That's why you were not notified.
Ms.
Sorry, that's why you were not
Yeah,
Ms.
notified.
Ms.
Frank,
Frank,
you can
you're
say that.
addressing us.
Yes,
I'm sorry, that's why he wasn't notified. He
Okay.
is not in the 300-foot area.
Okay,
Well, I believe that I just read it's 350.
He's not in it
Oh,
though.
well, I understand.
So everybody-
Correcting, it's 350.
Yeah, so everybody that was in that area received a letter.
Mark, for clarification, as Frank just stated, it was posted, last fall. Upon a new hearing date, should have been reposted.
I think they sent out letters.
Yeah, there was letters sent out continuous. It doesn't necessarily need to be, I mean, that's not, again,
It doesn't need to be, but it should have been. The proper thing to do is to post it for a new meeting. Wouldn't you agree?
ideally, yes.
Yeah, thank you, that's all, yeah. And as you stated, notices were sent out. For this meeting.
Many notices were sent out. And obviously, anybody who's here saying that he get noticed, obviously, they were aware of the action that was gonna be taken, right? So,
By word of mouth, if not by notice.
correct.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Did you want to say anything else?
all right, thank you. So at this time, we are,
So public hearing is closed, correct?
yes, at this time, public hearing, comments are closed.
I have one comment I'd like to offer. if I could.
Public,
Okay, you will have to give whatever he says, you're gonna have to let the applicant, you don't have to hear anymore because you closed the public hearing. So it's entirely up to you. So you could reopen it, just understand. Gotta get the applicant has to have the last word.
Okay. So, okay, we'll open, so,
Okay, Michael Frank, 83 Lakeshore Drive. Just as a point of clarification about the posting and the notices, I would think as a neighbor, new in the neighborhood, you want all your neighbors, whether they're within that 350-foot radius or not. When the first time the variance got posted, it was posted the afternoon of the meeting that night. It wasn't posted like a week or two in advance, and that sign has been missing for weeks. So there was no yard notification. That's all I'm saying. It was very suspicious in my humble opinion, of why it wasn't posted earlier upon that first one back in November or December, and then why it hasn't been reposted to let the neighbors know. Thank you again. And I come with solutions too, so I would offer to the property owner to just buy a RV cover thing. It costs about $300. They'll protect your RV much better than a carport. It'll protect your front windshield, your top, your sides, your back. So if it was me, I'd just invest in a RV cover and call it a day.
thank you.
I don't have any further comments. I'm not gonna go tit for tat with him.
Okay, can you just come and state your name and state at this time?
Unless you have no further comments.
So 195 Chestnut, no further comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
This guy.
Okay, at this time, public comments are closed. And we will move with the recommendation of the board. Yes,
Can't we discuss anything more?
do the board have anything else that they would like to? Yes,
Other things.
yes.
Okay. The first thing I want to talk about is the letter from Mark. And it is says, granting proposal of variance is not in conflict with the comprehensive plan. I provided you guys with a copy of the comprehensive plan, and it says that the city has developed land development codes to implement its comprehensive plan. So all the codes we're talking about are in reference to the comprehensive plan, okay? But at the end here, it says, in part, it says, and to enhance the appearance, function, livability of the city to the end of improving all quality of life within the community. This is contradictory to, has no conflict with the comprehensive plan. I believe it has a lot of conflict with the comprehensive plan. The other thing I'd like to talk about is the other thing I want to talk about, I'll just bring up again, they're requesting a 35 by 26 square foot thing, but in actuality, it's 910 square feet, which is more than 6, sure. And then number 3, it says the color and roof line of the carport will complement those of the primary residence and property. This is a prime example of what's called cherry picking the codes. Okay, because the real code reads, I gave it to you, 219. Says,
I have it here, you want me to read it?
no, I can read it, it's, under 319(1)H. And it talks accessory buildings shall conform to the setback requirements according to the zoning district, and shall not cause any excessive or maximum building coverage or maximum impervious coverage, and establish the responsible zoning district. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about, under general purpose land development code, section 1.4 G, it says that promote a high quality of architectural design developed from the quality of life. Then all G says protect the character of the existing new residential neighborhood from incompatible development. I think what they're planning to build is definitely incompatible.
Incompatible as far as.
Architectural design. You know, the, last month we had a guy that came in and did this, and when it talks about roof line, it's more talking about a roof line that's attached to a house. It's not talking, the spirit of that is not talking about a separate building with a, 3-4 pitch roof. It's talking about something that's attached.
So, and I'm probably one of the newest ones here, so we're talking about an accessory
You
unit.
gotta understand, the pictures that are shown, those are just illustrative of what she wants to do. The criteria associated with the architectural pyramid, that all gets imposed, you can add some additional criteria. B, that all gets imposed at the building permit time, right? So if you guys have concerns, if you wanna add criteria, as long as they're reasonable, and you're concerned about the appearance, you can add those conditions. But you wouldn't be denying it based on a picture of something that is just,
Right, I understand what you're saying, I'm just, just
Yeah.
clarifying, because he was talking about the land development code, which is why we're here, because they want a variance. They want to do something, different from what's stated. And so, when he keeps reiterating that, we're looking at the land development code and making sure that it is not, that it is abiding by the rules and regulations that are there. So I feel like I've heard a lot today, and it was a lot of information, some points were made, but keep going back in line to what he's saying to keep me focused. Because, some of the questions that I had when I looked at it and I heard the questions and the statements that were made answered some of my questions. And so when you were, stating that it's going against the land development code or, are you basing it off of what is already stated? Because that is why they're doing the variance. It's because if it was 600 feet, they have to come before us to say that they want to do something a little different.
So you're saying they need to get a variance for 900
That's what this-
square feet?
Well, that's what they're asking, the
Yes.
variance is why we're here today.
Whereas, why we're here today is the setback and the building of a carport.
Right. And so the title
It
says
doesn't-
a variance from section 3.19 of the land development code.
But it doesn't meet the land development code.
So, right, so when folks come before us, we have a guideline, but they come and they request for something different. And that's what the applicant is requesting for us to change the variance.
Change the variance of the size of the carport.
To change from the guideline that is stated in the policy. So they can come and ask for something different,
And that's what we have to do.
and that's what we have to decide on. So they, they can ask, come and request for something different. So
And we can
it's
either or deny, or we can make some changes.
yeah, so that, we don't have to, just because this has been implemented, it's in place to guide us. So, okay, this is what it is, but they are requesting and want additional space. And it's up to us to make that decision. To try to accommodate the citizens of this community, work with them.
And so for that one, what you were referring to that we met on the last time, they were adding on to the house. So if it's my understanding that the carport is not attached to the house, it's a freestanding, accessory unit. That's on that slab.
But in the land development code, it talks about, the roof line needs to match the existing property. Or, conform architecturally to the existing property, which is their house. And, I don't think that if you just put down, the color and the roof line of the carport will complement those of the primary residence in the property.
Right, so that was a condition that I'm suggesting, right? If you want to add additional criteria, additional conditions, I think you're free to do so. You shouldn't deny the variance based on what staff wrote as a recommendation that you could consider as imposing on the variance. If you think there needs to be more, you should say that. But the fact that I wrote color and roof line certainly should not be a basis for denying the variance request.
And that's what, and
Now, you guys could say, we want to continue this, and come back and you show us exactly what it is you want to do, and we'll rehear it, so that's perfectly within your right to do that. You've heard some testimony about notice. Lack of notice is not a variant, is not a reason to deny the variance. It might be a reason to redo the hearing. If you guys feel like, there's been insufficient notice, you can continue this hearing to another meeting, and notice can be repeated, but lack of notice is not a basis for denial. It's not part of the criteria.
I have my biggest issue is that I don't see a hardship. I don't see a proven hardship. What's the hardship? I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, you must prove a hardship, and I don't see a hardship here.
And so then the next thing is that we probably need to define hardship. Because we could have another case that comes before us, and we're gonna have to be able to define, what is hardship.
Now, each variance
Yeah.
stands on its own and its
Yes.
own conditions, so you're not creating a precedent here, but you guys, Mr. Dodd is just correct. That's a relevant question. Is there or is there not a hardship?
Yeah.
You've heard what I have to say, you've heard what the applicant has to say, you've heard from members of the public, and you've heard from at least one member what he thinks about whether you're a hardship. You guys have to collectively decide, is there or is there not a hardship? And that issue is on point,
Yes.
I mean, I have other concerns, but fundamentally, that's the big one. Right? There isn't a proven hardship.
Well, actually, and this has probably been about 30 or 40 minutes ago, in my mind, I was feeling before I said that, I think that we really need to table this and probably bring it back, before we make a decision. I would like to be able to study the situation a little more.
Would you like for them to speak more on the hardship the next time they come forward?
Yes. Yes, so, and give us time to really, because a lot was said, and presented, so we can go back, review, and have a better understanding before we make a decision. I really would like to, be able to do that.
I think that any application, it's a responsibility to state a hardship. That's the beginning. And it is typically done. This applicant has failed to do that. And moving along, in finding it hard to understand how achieving architectural design quality equal to the home is going to be achieved with a carport. And as the applicant stated, what was supplied is not anything near what she desires. But this home, it's a beautiful home. It sits on a stunning piece of property on beautiful Lake Stella. We have a responsibility to maintain the integrity of that neighborhood. And this illustration, again, as the applicant told us, is not the intention, but it's going to be very costly in my mind to achieve the architectural quality and to maintain the beauty of the site and of the home. Otherwise, quite honestly, I'm afraid it's gonna do just the opposite. It's not gonna enhance the neighborhood. It's going to do just the opposite. It's gonna devaluate the neighborhood. It is one of our finest neighborhoods in the city. And there's great potential there. So I understand the desire to cover one's property. But there are alternatives, as, with the RV, for instance. That is parking it somewhere else. And there are many facilities that offer secure parking for RVs. I mean, it's not as though they're using it as a guest house. I'm sure that it's a nice quality RV, that they travel a lot in it, but not on site. They currently have a beautiful garage, and so forth. So, I mean, just briefly, those are some of my concerns. And to me, to build a carport for these items of that size is going to be excessively expensive, particularly, we're in Florida, and where there are hurricanes. And obviously, they'll want a structure that is hurricane-proof and to protect their neighbors from, unnecessary debris. The other is the square footage size. What is proposed is a very large structure, carport. As we've read, there's a limit to 350 square feet, is that correct?
600 square feet is the limit for an accessory structure.
For this location?
Yeah, so if you're over 350, you have to, there are architectural standards that get imposed, right? But the actual limit on the size of an accessory structure is 600 square feet and so on. That's why, if you recall in my presentation, I said I was recommending in favor of the setback variance, but I was not recommending
So you were,
the size.
yeah, recommending denying the size.
Size.
Yeah, so your recommendation would limit it to 600, is that
We
correct?
would limit it to 600 square feet and there only be 2 accessory structures.
Right, yeah. So those are my thoughts on it.
I felt like we had a whole conversation when that was in the beginning of this meeting. So what is the recommendation?
I would like to recommend that, we give the applicant that we, come back, revisit, and give the applicant the opportunity to show us, a hardship and show us a design, that will be more, of the outcome, what will be expected.
if we were to deny it tonight, could the applicant resubmit?
The applicant could, yes, could change the variance in some way and resubmit.
And will that cost her more money? Yes.
Sure will.
Yes. Yes.
It costs money anyway, right?
So you have, like, you have a couple options. You could continue it with some direction to the applicant as to what you'd like them to bring back. You can make a decision.
So but where it says state the reason for the request that meet the
I-
criteria.
One thing I do want to point out to you, there's only 4 members here, so a tie vote would be a deny.
I have another comment. There's already 2 violations of the land development code. First of all, it's the 600 versus 910 square feet. If we were to grant her a variance to make it 910 square feet, I think we'd be setting a very dangerous precedent. Because people are gonna say, well, so-and-so has a 910 square feet, and you approve that, why can't we do that?
That's not what was recommended. If we look at his recommendations, he said he approved the variance
Okay, so-
setback, but not the size.
Okay, so.
But you guys have to decide on your own, right? That's just my recommendation. You guys could grant the variance for the size and the setback. You could separate them as I did. You get to decide.
Okay, well, there's already 2 infractions, the size and the number of accessory things. I mean, why do we have to go into causality in regards to the hardship? There's already 2 violations there.
We can take a vote, somebody can make a motion to deny it and vote on it, or the other option,
Yeah.
as the chair suggested, we can continue it.
Yeah.
We could approve it, so there are options. So we just need to take action.
Just for clarity's sake, if you make a motion to approve that way, a yes approves it and a no denies it. Yeah, it just makes it easier.
I make a motion for approval. We need a second?
Yeah, second. Well, we have to vote on it, right?
Well, you need a
Have a
second,
motion.
and if there's a second, there's a vote. If there's no second, somebody else could make a motion. That motion could be for continuance, could be for denial. I was recommending that it be a positive, just for clarity's sake, that's up to you all.
Me personally, I feel like we need to do a continuum, because I just feel like that there's some question on, the board, just for clarity's sake, I think.
Well, then I'll make a motion that we continue this
Okay,
various case.
So noting my motion failed for lack of a second. Now you're free to make.
so when you do continue it to a time certain, meaning a date, continue it to the next meeting.
Next meeting, which will be,
I make a motion to continue, the consideration of the variance to the next meeting.
It has been motioned and second that we continue the variance until the next meeting. All in favor? Aye.
aye. You get 3 ayes?
I said aye.
I'll go, I'll go.
So we get the.
Okay. So you're continuing the next meeting. I think you put enough on the record that you guys want to see what this is going to look like.
That we, explain the hardship and what it's gonna look like, for clarification. So, and we wanna, have an idea of what, and she's been here, so she will be able to answer our concerns.
How it architecturally is going to complement the fine home that exists.
May I ask just a process question, if I may?
Yes,
Is that appropriate?
yes,
It sounds as if the applicant, if they decide to come back, they have a lot of work to do between now and the meeting. My concern would be that if their package comes in at the last moment, that doesn't allow me enough time to prepare. I'll need to get that to an attorney and let them do their job. And if it's down to 48 hours, it's impossible. So just process questions, is there some deadline by which the applicant must get this revised package in? And if it's close to the meeting time, it's 30 days, you have the next meeting, an appropriate interval.
well, sure.
I mean, although we're not legally required to do so, we're gonna renotice this. We renotice each of the continuances along the way. So, I mean, we don't have the information and time to get out the 10-day notice.
So
So
I
we're
guess,
gonna have to postpone
Move it
it
until June.
to
Till June.
so I'm just for, when they did the original application, shouldn't they have listed that already? So
Excuse me?
when she did the cause it
This
says.
thing what?
The reason for the request that meet the criteria for hardship.
Yes, it's incumbent upon the applicant to list conditions. Now, Mr. Miller handed out basically the criteria that was handed out by Ms. Miller, that's the criteria in the old land development code. It's very similar to the criteria in the new land development code. What was in the new land development code is what's in my staff report. The criteria are very similar.
May I respond?
Yes.
I got that directly off of the city website. And I've also heard a conversation about the staff recommendation that leads me to believe that maybe there were some changes. And that was that posted and made available? Were there some last minute changes?
No, the land development code was changed.
Yeah, the application form though?
A new application form is being used now. This
Is that available on the website?
design form. I believe it is available. It's a combined form.
Okay, somehow I got
Yeah,
I got an incorrect one then.
You got an older one then.
I'm just trying to stay in step here and I'm having trouble. Thank you.
Can I just ask the applicant a question?
Yes, go ahead.
If you choose to resubmit an application with all the criteria met,
She's not resubmitting a new application, right? You guys,
oh,
Right.
We're continuing it.
you're continuing, so
Yeah.
she can provide supplemental information that you've directed her to
Until
do.
June.
how long do you envision it's going to take to get you, to have, for you to get all that supplemental information?
Well, I mean, y'all let me know what you need and I can have it submitted. fairly quick.
Because you'll have to go back to whoever is your contractor, right?
Okay.
You'll have to make some final decisions as to, what you think the carport should look like,
Okay.
and then provide that with your application. You're also being given opportunity to, further describe the hardship, because apparently there's some, disagreement or difficulty with everybody understanding or whether there is or isn't a hardship, so.
This one thing, you speak about the storage shed.
Yes,
Are you gonna have that taken off the property?
yes.
And when is that gonna happen?
As soon as I have everything moved out of it, I have Bird's, portable storage building.
What do you?
Probably within a month. I can have it moved off.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been properly motioned and second that the planning and zoning meeting is adjourned.
We have our next meeting. Yeah.
I believe you read it. No, that's the other day. All right, the Crescent City Historical Preservation Board meeting, April 17, 2025, will now come to order. That's how we'll have the approval of the minutes.
That'll be
The same.
same as before,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
So
We'll
we
have those
will,
available next meeting.
okay, minutes will be available at our next meeting. Next, we will have public comments. So, do any of you have any comments? Okay,
And Madam Chair, may I introduce our new member,
yes, you have.
Frank Murray, who's, this is his first meeting with us. Frank, you want to tell us something about yourself?
Okay, Frank Murray, my wife and I moved to Crescent City about 1.5 years ago. We have a nice, if I lean to one side, I have a nice view of the lake from my house. And, we thank you, and, we find, it to be a really wonderful place with a lot of opportunity. And I look forward to serving in whatever capacity I can for the historical preservation of this fine city.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delighted you're with us.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move on to business items. Number one, our new business.
We have, before you, there is the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society has done this historic marker for the Hubbard House. And this is, as you can see, it's still at the factory. It needs to be painted, or our code is going into it, but I just wanted to share it with you. And we hope to have it here. The city has agreed to approve the right-of-way location for it, on Lake, and agreed to have the staff install it for us. And we hope to do one of these a year,
Okay.
okay? Next is of course, May is historic month. And these are some of the items that are going on during that month. You can see the first one is April 26th, and it is it's a kickoff, turn of the century time tour. Starts at 11, a tour of the past, and it starts at the corner of Summit and Central Ave. And so the Plum players are going to be stationed throughout and do a series of little presentations representing some of our city founders. And we've done the house tours before. This is the first time that we're introducing and doing a joint effort with players. So it will be great fun. And then you can see the other events going on as well. And of course, the 26th is the festival at Market Square as well, Spring Fest. So that's new business.
Next, we will have old business.
We're up to date with old business.
Okay. All right.
And we've introduced our new member.
Okay. All right. So number 4, the New Moon Lodge update. We are still looking for grants and a grant writer. I spoke with someone about 11 to Save, And that's where they say 11 historical buildings somewhere, you have to apply. And I was able to get more information on it, about it, so we need to fill out the paperwork. And it recognizes buildings, so if you are selected, it's not necessary that you get grant money, but it puts you in a position when you apply for a grant that you have been, recognized as a historical building or one of the 11 saved. So it actually assists when you are applying to help you. So, that's where we're at. We continue to, raise money for the building. We will have a event on Saturday, May the 3rd, a fundraiser where we will be having our annual yard sale with a twist. And, so we have fish and chicken dinners. And if anyone would like to have a table, $20, per table for the yard sale. So that's all I have on the New Moon Lodge. Yes,
I'm not familiar with the New Moon Lodge, what is that?
it's 107 Main Street around here, on Main Street, around the corner. And, what it is, it was the lodge and the Masonic Lodge, I'm sorry. And, they were trying to tear it down, but learned that it was, historical landmark. And so therefore, the organization Concerned Citizen requested that we were able to save the building, to try to work to take ownership of the building so we can, have it reconstructed so it can continue to service, the Black community as it did at that time. Next, we will have our Miller Middle School update. Oh, I'm sorry, Christina.
That's okay, I just wanted to mention, firstly, if there's anything I can help you with, as far as, applications or anything, you know, I'm always here to help you.
Okay.
And then secondly, are you aware, and I'm hoping you all are, being on this board, aware of the available grants? I know REG recently provided us with a list of potential grants, and there may be some applicable to the Masonic Lodge. So I think that's something that maybe the board should explore. And I can make a copy of this for everyone to review, but I just think it's relevant to the Masonic Hall, especially with its African American heritage and the, you know, the cultural aspect of it. There are some grants that are focused on preserving those type of buildings, so it's worth exploring.
Yes, our issue is just finding a grant writer. I found grants and people send me, but it's just having someone that really understand the process, to help write them. So
Okay.
and every time someone, like the last lady, she got sick, the person before that got too busy, another person, so that's what we're running into.
Okay.
Yes.
My understanding is, the city works with 2 different grant writers, so maybe I can help in some way, maybe us working together or continuing that conversation. I can
Okay.
reach out to them and we can, see if that's feasible or doable rather.
Okay, all right, that sounds good, thank you. Yes, sir.
I do have a question, looking for a grant writer, does it have to be someone who is professionally a grant writer? Or can it be someone who understands grant writing and has done it in the past?
I'm not well versed in that subject, but I could get an answer and,
Not that I'm volunteering my wife,
Okay.
but she has, she's worked for Georgetown University Hospital
Uh-huh.
and other hospitals, and she's written for a lot of grants. So I don't know that she would be willing to, so I might be speaking out of turn until I speak with the boss, you know?
Yes, and I understand that because I know, like, I wrote one grant, but it wasn't on this scale.
Right.
Just something simple for $400 and, you know, it wasn't something, but on that level, I'm not aware. Some of the simple questions I can answer, but not,
Right, so I might be able to rope her into something
Yeah,
that's not a
because it's-
requirement for an
Yeah.
official.
because some people just know what to say.
She does.
Yes.
She knows exactly what to say.
Yes, okay.
Maybe I'll
we
get
don't.
some advisement from our city attorney and just make sure there isn't, anything with regards to a volunteer helping us with, particular grant for this project.
I think any help we can get
I
would be
agree.
greatly
Yes,
appreciated,
Mhm.
and we're all eager to hear of your success.
I'm just curious about
Which one, the 11 to save?
the one you just talked about, that you didn't have a record.
The building?
She's looking for grants.
In general. Grants in general.
Oh, so a list of grants.
He's thinking that you're talking about a particular grant and he wanted to get a copy of it.
Oh, but what this one is, I see, I think you should do this, right? It's like different grants out there that covers different historical, buildings. And
So it's for historical building.
yes, and some of them are specifically for historical African American buildings. Yeah, so you have those out there. Yeah. Yes, you can.
Thank you, Michael Frank, 83 Lake Shore Drive. I could offer some comments on New Moon Lodge. As an architect, my career choice, and I've seen this building over here behind Palmera's, for reference. There is no way that can be restored, renovated, updated. It's been vacant for over 10 years. 10 years I've been here, it's been vacant and boarded up. By that time, there's so much infestation, black mold, you would have to strip it down and even the foundations are shaky. You would basically have to knock it down and build the whole thing up. There's nothing left there. Doesn't even have good bones, as they say in the business, to try to restore and renovate. It's past that point.
I don't know if you're aware that we did have a structural grant done to it.
Yeah.
And it is okay. The building is okay.
Yeah, and I question who brought that to you. If it's at the level of this consultant that we had previously, I sincerely question it. Go walk around the building, look for yourself, it's falling apart.
We.
And I, as a taxpayer, and that's where the grant money comes from, is us taxpayers. I would not want to see my tax-paying dollars go to the effort to restore that building that's just barely standing on. And then you mentioned that it would be for the black community. Why leave out the white community or the Hispanic
No, I
community or any
didn't.
of it?
No,
Well,
I
she
didn't.
made that statement.
I said that the building that serviced the black community. That's what I said at that time. This building will
So,
service.
I would
community.
recommend not even wasting time trying to find a grant because that building is just beyond repair.
Well,
In my humble opinion, I've been a professional architect for 30 years.
it doesn't mean to you what it means to some of us. And I pay tax, I'm a taxpayer, and I pay for stuff that I don't approve, but I don't have a say so.
So let's play it out. If it gets restored, what would it become then?
It will be a building to have biggest, to educate people financially, economically, just service our elderly, just
And
people.
who bears the burden of the
It'll be a
maintenance
resource center.
and the maintenance and everything, long run insurance liability? Who is on the hook for that?
We surely wouldn't ask you, so we.
No, I'm asking you, would it be the city or would it be
It would be us.
the concerned citizens
Yes,
for Putnam County to come
yes,
up with the money
yes.
to maintain the property, keep it mowed?
Yes,
and
yes,
Operational,
yes,
okay.
yes, and we can do that.
All right, well, that's my recommendation and good luck with your
Thank you.
efforts.
Thank you,
Yes.
Michael.
our building codes, you know. If you're gonna renew a property, it has to, the renewal has a certain limit. In other words, if it needs 99% renewal, they're not gonna grant you a remodeling on building permit. Is there a percentage that you guys go by as to whether it's feasible to renew?
Well, we got to the stage, what we were waiting on and what we got was that structural grant to see how we needed to proceed. And that has been done and given the okay, it was a presentation that was done here on the building. So that's all we needed. So that was the goal, to say that it was okay, the building is strong and
But there's no money amount on how much you can actually put into remodeling or bringing it, restoring.
not that I'm aware of.
I can speak to my experience, but it's been 30 years. I'm speaking with Broward County, Fort Lauderdale. There was a certain amount that, let's say you couldn't spend 80% on renovation. You had to bring it up to code to a certain extent. But there was a ceiling on how much you could spend to do it. So to answer your question, yes.
Okay, because I know that's, you know, with the regular building permits and stuff that Putnam County puts out, there's a limit.
And I'm not sure what that limit is today.
I just wanted to comment on grants and then the possible uses. From my involvement with the Historical Society over the last several years, it's become very apparent to me that the Florida legislature is providing substantial funding for underrepresented communities in the area of history, primarily African American communities in Florida. So the money is there. I have some understanding of Michael's concerns as to cost, and certainly, like the school here, is beyond the capacity of the city. So it will require some sort of legislative appropriation. I would suggest, given the really derelict condition of the building, I think we all acknowledge that you're probably easily in the 7 figures. And that's going to be a heavy lift with the legislature. And you may want to, with any big project, particularly when you're trying to sell it to someone like the legislature, that has to go through committees and that kind of thing, screening committees, I'd suggest that it's imperative that you kind of begin with the end in mind, have a solid plan for what the ultimate use of the property is going to be, and then how it will be operated thereafter, because it will certainly be operating costs. We're looking at much the same thing at the school if that ever works out. Otherwise, the perception in such a request will be that it's kind of a pipe dream, you know, something they'd like to do, but there's no plan. So the money's there, it's going to take a solid plan with an absolute focus on when it's done. This is who's going to be our partners, and this is how it's going to be operated. So hope it's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add that you may find at the end of the day, after a long journey, that it's best to duplicate it than to restore it. Say it comes in at 50%. You know, you'll have to, I suggest you be open to that analysis and decide which is the best.
Okay, we'll move on to the middle school.
Before us, I passed out from REG architects who were doing the study of the school, their timeline schedule. And as you can see, we're in April, and by the end of May, they'll be completed. So at that time, we'll have their analysis, we'll have their renderings, and it will give us a great deal of information on how best to move forward. The second piece of information from REG Architects is the multi-page one, and which is 8 pages, and it describes the various state and federal level grants or assistance that can be provided for preservation, restoration, and maintenance. I wanted to share with you this information because it's very important. And of course, as we all know, there are many competing for grants. It is, I also advise that this committee make a recommendation to the commission to proceed to seek work on obtaining grants. We are an advisory committee to the commission, and I think it's appropriate that we have this information before us and make a recommendation that they have our grant writers start working on grants. And to that end, I'd like to make a recommendation that we recommend to the Crescent City Commission that they seek out grant writers to start working on grants for the Miller School. Is there a second?
Okay, has been motion and second that we do a recommendation to the city commission to seek out grant writers for Miller Middle School.
And for the historical preservation committee, is that what you requested? Did you request grant writers did you request, or what, and what's the recommendation to the commission to start seeking out grant writers for the Miller Middle School and for the historic preservation committee board?
I would actually like to see them just.
I was just asking for.
No, it's to, this is to start working, to have our grant writers start working on the, on the grants, on the middle school. I am, and then I'm next reporting on the historic survey, and then I'll touch on grant writing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I need to watch. Let's see.
Is that clarified? Kim?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so. We need a motion, so it has been motion and second that we, request that the city seek out grant writers to start working on grants for Miller Middle School.
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Next, we'll get an update on our historical survey.
So I spoke with Paul Weaver, who is doing our historical survey, and, which hasn't been done for 30 years, and he's making, good progress. But he pointed out that, this committee, will need to start, recognizing historic properties throughout our city and recommending them for nomination as historical structures on a national basis, a state basis, and a city basis. And with that, there will be grant opportunities. So, so in the future, we'll be needing to make a formal request to our planning commission that our grant writers start working on grants for these new identities.
So will that take place after he completes the survey, or?
Once he has the survey, he identifies the new structures that are included. Then we can move forward as a group and start nominating it, identifying and nominating.
All right, any comments on?
Just to clarify, those will be 2 action items on an upcoming commission meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, any general discussion? Okay. All right, there's nothing else at this time. The Historic Preservation Board meeting is adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. Yeah.
May I pose a question?
Uh-huh.
My question regards, an updated historic preservation ordinance in the city. There is a historic preservation ordinance on the books that, is toothless, we'll say. It really doesn't accomplish much. And, about 2 years ago, our then city manager, at a city commission meeting, said that he had worked with the then clerk to draft up a new historic preservation ordinance and had sent it to Tallahassee for input and comment. It wasn't clear who it was sent to. That's been good 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago. And that's just kind of lingering. It's down the needs in historic preservation ordinance badly. So I don't know where that is. I just wanted to bring it up for this group's consideration. It's past time, and it's in my mind, kind of with this work, Historical Society hat on. It should be top priority. A lot of work, but it's a priority. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a recommendation that we ask the city to provide us with that documentation and distribute a copy to all of us so we can start studying it, because I'm sure it's gonna take input from us.
I know when I first came aboard, and I don't know if this is the same thing, he was saying that we had to, I don't know if it was meet some requirements or do some things to be considered an actual board, which is why we couldn't make any recommendations at that time. And so that might be what he was talking, in reference to, yes. So
I can speak to
that's a
that.
good, yes.
Thank you, that's an excellent point. Pardon me. As I understand it, kind of on the periphery of things, the historic preservation ordinance is something that can be worked on, and it's a long, drawn-out process, but the parallel to that was becoming a certified local government.
Right.
The first step of being a certified local government, if I'm recalling correctly, was to become a Main Street community, which we are.
Yes, sir.
And in order to be a certified local government, you have to have an historic preservation ordinance in place. So, who knows where we are on the certified local government, because that gets you into more grant money too,
Right, exactly,
which we desperately need.
right.
And so the historic preservation ordinance is critically important. It gets us, in the simplest sense, it gets money for the community, so
Right.
let's keep feet and make it happen.
You're absolutely, and you're absolutely right, because I remember that to me in the CLG, had to go through some ordinance, and so like you said, we got in, knee deep into the land development code and all of that, and then he would give us updates, and then we had changes, so that's a good.
Yeah, there's just talking about it,
Yeah.
and it's time to move beyond just talking about it.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for prompting that, conversation. If my memory serves me correct, I think we did identify a historic preservation ordinance, so I'll research that and report, back to you all, via email if that's appropriate, via the clerk and email. I
Certainly.
think I have that readily available,
Yeah.
I remember this being a topic a couple of years back, and, we did in fact, find it, if my memory serves me correct, so let me not speak any further on it, but I'll research it, and, if not, we'll move forward with, certainly doing what we need to do to move forward with that process, so, again, thank you for bringing that, to light.
We look forward to receiving some more meeting. And actually,
Do you have a proper motion and second for adjournment?
I motion that we adjourn the, Historic Preservation Board meeting.
I'll second
It has been properly motioned and second that we adjourn historical preservation board meeting.
oh, please do, yes.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It was very nice.
Oh, yeah.